All right, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So we're here with the 2025 Mustang Mach-E, and we're going to be comparing it to my 2022 Mustang Mach-E. We are here at Kendall Ford of Meridian, Idaho. Big shout out to them for letting me come film the 2025 Mach-E here and get to share it with you guys. So we're going to get to compare the differences, check out all the updates inside and outside, and then take it on a short drive. And we'll be comparing it directly with my 2022. So if you're in the market for a new Mach-E, maybe a used Mach-E or any other Ford vehicle, come check them out. All right, so let's check out the differences. So for 2025, you can add a sport appearance package. So you can see there's quite a bit of difference here on the front ends. And this actually brings a lot of the GT styling to the premium trim. So I definitely think this looks a lot better than without it. And it really cleans up the front end, looks a lot more aggressive. In addition to that, you also get bigger wheels, you get Brembo brakes, red painted calipers, you get sport pedals, you get red stitching on the interior, and a couple other things we'll check out. So definitely a nice package if you're looking for that more sporty, aggressive look, but maybe you don't need the performance of the GT, or you're wanting to get maybe a little bit more range. Or spend a little bit less. It could be a great option for you. Also, the difference in the color. So this is a new desert sand color. My Mach-E is the space white. They don't offer this color anymore. They also have star white, that's a bright white. This is kind of like a silver white. And then obviously this is more of a tan sand color. All right, so for 2025, there's a big difference in the front truck because the 2025 Mach-E finally has a heat pump. So that's gonna be a big help with efficiency, especially in the wintertime and cold climates. So I'm excited to see how that plays out. We're not gonna test that today, it's summertime, but just wanted to show you there is a pretty big difference in the front trunk space. All right, well, let's check this out more close up. So here's the 2025, and not a lot of depth here. I mean, I don't wanna say it's not there at all, but it's getting close. You can probably get a backpack in there. I've also heard, they're kind of thinking you could put your charger up here, an extension cord. This also looks like the perfect size for one of the DC fast charging adapters. All right, so this car does have a fast charging adapter, but it's all packaged up. I'm not going to open that. I grabbed my Tesla NAX adapter here. It doesn't fit there. So if you're wondering about that, maybe that's for something else. Let me know in the comments below what you're supposed to put there. All right, so coming over to the 22 front trunk here. So quite a bit more depth here. There's also a drain in the 2022 there. And this should be the same front truck for 21, 22, 23, 24. I believe they made this all one piece, so like you don't have these slots in here in either, I think in 2024. But they kind of thought you could use this like a cooler. But over here on the 25, that's not really an option. It does look like there might be a drain here, so maybe you could still do that. But yeah, I don't see a lot of people using this. It looks like there's a couple of hooks up here, but I'm not totally sure what you'd hook in there. Also hooks here, so they might have some sort of like accessory that goes in here to like hold your bag down or something like that. Both still have the ponies up top here. And then just looking at the front grille a little bit more, I believe the emblem on the GT is lighted, and I don't believe it is on the performance pack, but it definitely looks nice there. You can see it's got more of an aggressive front splitter there. It still has the louvered vents for the cooling system, just like the 2022 does. Now the lights are flickering on camera, but you'll also notice the headlight is a little more broken up here on top, so it's a little more distinct where the light is. It kind of breaks it up. Where on the 22, it's like a straight bar all the way across. It's probably really hard to see that on camera, but it makes the 25 look a little more aggressive. I think it's either 23 or 24, they did that same headlight design, but the sport appearance pack on the premium, that's new for 25. So let's take you around the side here. So charge port, we're still using the CCS1 port here. So you still have your DC pins there, J1772 AC pins up there. Still says horsepower in here. On, I think 24, they added this little dimple here, so it's a little more easy to know exactly where to push this so it'll lock on you. Where on mine, I feel like sometimes I'm pushing in not exactly the right place, and I end up having to open and close this multiple times. So like if I'm down here, it doesn't want to close. But if you go right here, then it will close. So I think the dimple just helps with that a little bit. All right, so like I was mentioning on the Sport Appearance Pack, you've got these upgraded black rims, and you've also got red calipers there with Brembo brakes. So that looks really cool. In the back, it should be painted as well. Yep. This also has the extended range battery pack. And so one other difference is this used to have an X next to the Mach-E if you had the extended range battery. And I think they went away from that. So the 4 means 4-wheel drive. So that's the only other difference there. But even though it's an extended range battery, no X. And my Mach-E is a standard range battery, so I didn't have it anyway. So that looks the same. All right, so let's check out the back. So there's still the button right here where you can open and close it, but they removed the button that used to be here. So I'll show you on mine, but now they're doing everything with just this one button, which, you know, if you're trying to simplify the car and you know, cut some costs, that's one way to do it. That kind of threw me off when I first used it, but no problem using this one. You're just gonna have to reach a little bit higher. I'll show you on mine. So I still press that same button to open it, but whenever I close it, I press this button. So, you know, this button is no longer there. I don't know if that's a big deal. This one's more natural to me just because I'm used to it. Like my wife's Jeep has the button over here, so that's a little different. But I think once you got used to this, it's no problem. You can push it on the older models too, so I think I would pretty easily get used to that. I don't see that as a big deal. This also has the weather package, so it comes with these nice mats. And then I do wish there was a little cutout here though, so you could easily pull this up. Everything back here looks the same. It comes with a charger. You do have to pay for this if you're ordering one. You will have to spec it to configure it with that. If you don't need it, you can save a few bucks and not get it. And here's also the fast charging adapter here. This is the one that Ford partnered with Electron on. So if you're buying this car, it comes with both of those. There's also the air compressor here. There's also looks like a tow hook here. So yeah, not loving this mat. It's almost like it's a little bit too long, because then again, it kind of gets caught back here, and you can see it's all the way back. So if you're not going under the floor, you'll probably like this mat just fine. But if you want to open it at all, now it's stuck up here. Now I got to pull this out so it'll lay back flat there. So yeah, that doesn't feel quite right. But it looks fine once you get it in place. All right, so I just did it again. I tried to push the button here, but need to use this one now. All right, so checking out the back seat here. This one also has the glass roof just like mine. That looks very similar. Headliner and color are the same. The difference is on the Sport Appearance package, you have this red stitching that looks really nice. But yeah, otherwise this feels the same as mine. We'll see the center armrest here. That looks the same as mine. So yeah, back seat, you know, door, window switches here, door open, that all looks the same. You know, mine actually has white stitching. You know, there was no Sport Appearance pack or anything, and then pretty much same with the headliner. I've got a car seat back here in mine, but you know, rear console ports, everything here on the door, that looks all the same, just the red stitching on the 25 with the Sport Appearance pack. Okay, so also comparing the key fobs, the new 25's on the right, and you can see they added a front trunk open. So that's interesting. And they moved the rear trunk down and then put the front trunk up here. Push the button here. And that release mechanism and everything sounds the same as mine. So definitely nice to see that on the key fob. It's gonna make getting in here a lot easier, but man, it's just such a smaller amount of room. I don't think I would ever use it. I mean, even for like groceries or something, you're gonna be pretty limited with what you can fit in there. So yeah, at this point, it's like, maybe just remove the front trunk completely and give us a little more battery space or something. I mean, it's almost pointless. All right, yeah, so climbing in here, so more red stitching, and then you can see you've got the upgraded sport pedals there, and I think that looks really nice. I wish the Premium just had that. It feels like it should, but you know, that looks really nice. And then you'll also notice the center console has been redesigned because they moved the shift knob from here up to the stock up here. So on this side, you're gonna have your forward, reverse, and park. Looks like you can push the button on the end for park. And then this side got a little more complicated. So now it's your turn signals, brights, and all your wiper functions are over there. All the buttons here look unchanged. So it's still max defrost, but I still kind of wish there was a rear trunk hatch button. That would be nice. Also, you'll notice it's just like a plastic, it says Mustang right here, where mine has like a metal or aluminum or something logo. Yeah, so on mine, you can see this is some kind of metal here, and honestly, this looks a lot nicer. But you can see my pedals don't look as nice. Also, the shifter, so here's where the shifter used to be, and then my wipers are on the right side up here, and then the left side is just turn signal and high beams. And then you can see my buttons here are the same as the 25. All right, it's pretty toasty out here, so we're gonna get some AC going. So there's still the power button, but there is no light on it. So mine has a little light on there. All right, so I'm trying to push the buttons here, and okay, now it's responsive. It first booted up, it was pretty slow. So the center console area looks the same, still a USB-A and USB-C there. Still a wireless charging pad just on the one side. So, and they redesigned this so there's no more bar here in the middle because some phones didn't totally fit there. So they redesigned that a little bit better. Also on the 25, they removed the front door presenter. So you can see it just kind of barely open there. There's nothing that's pushing the door open. So you have to use the handle to get it all the way. Now you pretty much needed the handle before, but no presenter. There still is a presenter on the back door. So if I push this, you'll see the door opens and then you can reach back here and grab it. So probably another simplification, probably a little bit of cost cutting there, but no presenter on the front door. All right, yeah, so you can see on my power button, there's a little light there, which I kind of like because, for example, when the car's off, it's off. But then if you're in like accessory mode, it's flashing. So it's like the screens and stuff will power up, but the car isn't running. Like there's no like AC and stuff actually running. You know, pure EV enthusiasts will argue just get rid of the button entirely, which I would be fine with that, but I think it's funny they got rid of the light up there. So one of the other big upgrades on the 25 is heated and cooled seats now. And you can see in the menu here, now you have the option for heat or cool, and there's 3 different levels. You can go off in the middle, or left all the way cool, or right all the way heat. So I'm really loving these new seats, especially the ventilated part on a hot day. That feels really nice. I think the design is maybe slightly different, like this top part looks a little different, but they feel just as good as my 22s, maybe even slightly softer. So I've always loved the seats in my Mach-E. Been really great for road trips and around town. It does look like the headrest doesn't tilt anymore, and there's like it's a little bit thicker here to probably kind of make up for that. So if you really like that tilting headrest option, it's not here anymore. I don't think that's a deal breaker. I would gladly switch to that if I could get ventilated seats. They feel really nice. They're still calling this Sync version 4, and we can compare that with mine. But everything here software-wise feels very similar to mine. So you still have the 3 drive modes, whisper, and sorry about this on the screen. You know, this isn't my car, so I'm not going to remove that yet. Whisper, engage, and unbridle. So no difference there. Still open front trunk and rear trunk here. The one thing they did change, which we'll go test out in a little bit, is I believe on this charging display, it will now show your charging speed once you're plugged in. And you can also set a charge rate. So sorry about this sticker, but you can set from 5 amps to 48 amps. Man, okay, I can slide it. So let's see what increments you can go in. Wow, you can go in 1 amp increments. That's probably not necessary, but impressive. So I really wish mine had that because I have a 48 amp charger, and I could configure it to be lower, but I kind of have to reset the unit to do that, and I don't really want to do that. Sometimes I don't need to charge at max speed. If I'm charging overnight, maybe I won't put quite as much load on the circuit, and I could charge at 30 amps or 32 amps or whatever. or public charging. So that's nice to see. They've needed that. I don't know if they'll be able to bring that to the older models or if there was a hardware update to do that. You can also set a global limit here in the car that's not attached to a certain charging location. So my Mach-E, you can pick, you only want to charge 80% or whatever, but it's based on a certain location. So if you plug in somewhere else, it's going to default to 100%. Entertainment, I noticed there's no YouTube app here. I was just playing around with the YouTube app in my car, and with my kids, we were watching some videos in the car with the sound system, and it sounds pretty good. But the app doesn't work great. But so I don't know if they got rid of that because it didn't work great or what. Cameras, this looks the same. The quality maybe looks a little bit worse than mine. We'll have to see what that looks like as we drive around a little bit more. So another look here at the differences here. So you got this kind of, actually it's a pretty deep slot here, so you can put your phone in there. And they also added 2 USB-C charging ports right here, which is really nice. Mine doesn't have that at all. It does have this 12 volt here. And then you still have the ports up here. So you've got 3 USB-C ports for charging stuff all right up in here, which is great. And you still got the same cup holders, same layout over here on the door, same door switches. I don't notice any differences here. You've got 3 options here for different seat settings that you can save. It's still powered seats. That's all the same. It's still the Bang & Olufsen B&O sound system. So that all looks and feels the same. Up here, I think all this or part of this is black on mine, so it looks a little different, but it's the same buttons. You still got your garage door opener options. Under the sun visor here, this is all the same. Still have your little sunglass storage up here. Probably the next big difference besides the gear selector moving up here is they've redesigned the gauge cluster screen, which is awesome to see. So I'm excited to try that out. You can see, you can set your speed there and your following distance. Looks like there's a power bar here, so we'll try that when we're driving. And then you can see here in the corner, you've got your gear info. So they've kind of made that a little bit lower in the corner there. I think you still have your lights along the bottom. So yeah, any like typical standard warning lights are along the bottom there. And then buttons on the steering wheel. This all looks the same. Same pony logo. Wheel feels the same. And then you've got your eye tracking here for Bluecruise, and you can see those sensors blinking there. All right, so we're going to change the instrument cluster to light so we can see what that looks like. So yeah, that kind of emphasizes kind of this new design where they've got kind of the gear info there in the corner. I'm not sure what's over here in the corner. I guess we'll find out. If I turn traction control off, okay, so they must have some other warning lights hidden over there. Also kind of nice that they put the light switch info on the screen, because otherwise you're kind of trying to look around the steering wheel to see what you're selecting there. So I like that. That's nice. Mine doesn't do that. So I'll also show you what the screen looks like. So it looks like they did a new video here. It says Mach-E there. Sorry about the glare. Okay, there it's got the pony, and then that's kind of it. So that looks like they simplified that video a little bit. I would say once this screen is like booted up, it feels maybe slightly more responsive than mine, but I still think it's too slow. Especially, I mean, 3 years newer, and this feels still kind of slow. That's not great. Yeah, this all feels identical except for the cooled seat option and then the new driver screen updates, which look really good. And coming into my car here, you can see the gauge screen definitely looks different. Here in mine, you can see you've got the 12 volt there, but no extra outlets in here. Then here with my headrest, you can see you can tilt it down. So you end up with a slimmer headrest because you can adjust it, but no more adjustment on the new one. And then you can see my buttons up here. This area is black, but buttons are the same. Still garage door opener and all that. Along the side here, you can see that all looks pretty much the same. All right, well, we're here in the 2025 Mustang Mach-E, gonna take it for a spin. Again, big thanks to Kendall Ford for letting me borrow the car and check it out. So we're gonna go to a charger. We're at 63%, so we're not gonna be doing like a full charging test, but I wanna show you, you know, what's different about you know, can we see the kilowatt speed? We're supposed to be able to, at least on the center screen, but I'll kind of show you the differences on the driver display. We'll try out the new Bluecruise and then just see if it rides any different. I believe the GT is still the only one with the Magna ride, which has the best ride. You know, a lot of people have complained about this one being a little bit bouncy, so we'll see how that feels out on the road. All right, so first impressions here, we're gonna go in reverse, nobody behind us, and trying out the stock here. So I just click it up, kind of feels like you're putting on the turn signal a little bit, and we're in reverse, and then push it down, and now we're in drive. And then if you want to go into park, you just push the button on the end and you're in park. So far that feels pretty natural. I'm probably going to keep grabbing for the shifter down here just because that's what I'm used to, but that feels pretty good. You know, if you want to make a quick turn, you know, it feels like you could, you know, do like, you know, a multi-point turn a little bit easier here because your hand is so much closer to the wheel like that. So, so far I'm liking that. Okay, we're going to hit it here. It feels pretty fast. Feels very similar to my Mach-E. It does seem a little bit quieter in here. Now that could also be, you know, these tires have 25,000 less miles on them. All right, so Bluecruise, we just turned it on. And yeah, definitely a very different looking display. I'll show you that here in a second. I don't know why. Oh, initiating lane change. Okay, here we go. Okay, that was pretty cool. Yeah, so here's what the new display looks like. And if you get out of the display, here's what it looks like here. So you can see looks like we do have a power bar, so as I step on it, you can see that, and then you can see the regen. So right now, before 25, the power bar was only on the GT models. And so it's nice to see it here on the Premium as well. So yeah, and then we can adjust our following distance just like we did can in the current version. A little bit nicer looking display there. It says watch the road because I'm blocking the eye tracking here. So we're gonna, I usually like a level 2 here. And we've got it set to 65. I'm gonna go ahead, I wanna get over, so I'm gonna go ahead and put it on here. And we'll see if we can get it to initiate another lane change here. So I'm gonna set my speed up a little bit higher here in just a second. I don't know why everybody's going so slow today, going under the speed limit here. Good time to initiate a lane change, but there's a lot of traffic coming. So it still doesn't show me if there's any cars to my left or right. Okay, I'm gonna speed it up here. Let's see if it'll initiate a lane change. Because there is a gap to my left. There it goes. Initiating lane change, slower vehicle ahead. Here it goes. Nice. So that worked out pretty great. Oh, it initiated it again because the car in front of me is slower. So that's kind of cool. I'm going to slow down a little bit here and get over. So I'm going to put my blinker on, preparing lane change. So yeah, it feels a little bit smoother than my 22. Obviously, my 22 can't initiate lane changes, but I would say the lane change process feels a little bit smoother. So it takes a little bit more time to make the change, and it feels a little more natural. Right through here it says keep hands on the wheel. That happens on my version too. Hands on steering area, and then it just switched back to hands-free, so that's kind of interesting. All right, so we're in one pedal drive here, and I just kind of want to see if the tuning feels any different. So we let off here, rolling, stop. That felt okay. You know, on mine, and you know, a lot of reviewers talk about it, you kind of have this like almost two-step deceleration. Like you have the initial deceleration, and then there's this brief period where it kind of feels like you're coasting, and then the friction disc brakes grab. And so I feel like I didn't really notice that on my car until it had, you know, 10,000, maybe 5,000 miles on it. Because, you know, when everything's brand new, it's not quite as abrupt. So it's hard to really know, did they change anything there or not until this car gets some miles on it. Yeah, I think biggest differences so far is it definitely seems a little bit quieter. Love the cooled seats, and the ride definitely feels a little bit smoother. It does not feel as bumpy. All right, so we're gonna get to the charger with like 59, 60%. So we're not gonna be able to do anything super crazy fast here, but we'll see, you know, what kind of speeds we get. So we're at 60% battery here, and it's showing 171 miles of range. This is the extended range battery. So one other thing to note on the battery is the extended range is now 88 kilowatt hours. It used to be the same as the GT at 91 kilowatt hours. The GT is still 91, but extended range is now down to 88, and then the standard range is 73 kilowatt hours usable. So there's kind of like a narrower gap between standard range and extended range, and then the GT gives you a little bit more. So that's interesting. They're probably saving a few bucks on that. They also might, you know, be able to drop the cost a little bit to kind of incentivize people to upgrade to the bigger battery. And so 88s really should be pretty good for this car. I mean, mine is 70, and really the only time is like on road trips in the middle of Idaho or Nevada. You know, that I wish there was a little bit more there, but most of the time even that's totally fine. So with the efficiency improvements of this car and the standard range pack at 73, that could be a pretty compelling option, or it's not quite as expensive to upgrade to the bigger battery. All right, so we're coming around to the charger here. There's, you know, it's a Saturday, so there's definitely some cars here. Looks like one person's leaving. We'll try and not take up a space too long because we don't really have to charge this. Okay, so this said reduced power, so we'll see what we get here. 95, 96. So yeah, let's go check out the car. Okay, so in here, here's what the screen looks like. So it still gives you the time, but it still does not show the kilowatt speed on the screen, which is just crazy to me. It does show it right here. So yeah, I mean, they went to all this trouble to redesign this whole screen. I still don't understand why they can't put it right here. Because, you know, I specifically opened this app. I opened the charge settings app. So let's just pretend you closed all your apps. And then I've got to wait for that to load. And then you can see your speed. So at least they have it somewhere in here. And they show it in the app too. But man, I don't know why they can't get it on here. That just seems kind of nuts. So we're doing 87 kilowatts at 62%, 63%. So that seems okay. I mean, this car should peak at 150, but we are at a higher state of charge here. So I don't think we're going to really see anything too exciting here. All right, so I'm really enjoying these cooled seats while we're charging. While we were driving around, I was trying to figure out what's this like kind of whooshing sound I hear behind me. I thought it was like some new vents in the back or something, but nope, it's just the fans and the seats. So that makes way more sense now. Okay, so I let it charge just a couple minutes here, and we're down to 81 kilowatts. So, you know, we think this is operating with reduced power because that's what it says in the app. But, you know, since we were doing 90 before, you know, because we're coming up in the state of charge here, I bet this is actually the speed now, and I doubt the charger's limiting us. So still doing 80 kilowatts here at 67%. So that's not too bad. We're already down to 79. So there's people waiting. I think we're gonna go. All right, well, some final thoughts here on the 2025 Mach-E. You know, what I like, love the ventilated seats. I think I will like the heat pump in terms of the efficiency in the wintertime, maybe even a little bit in the summer, but don't really know until we do more testing there. I definitely like the updated gauge cluster screen. I think it looks more modern. But as far as like information that's telling you, really all that's different is the power bar, and I feel like the Bluecruise experience looks a little nicer, but it's not dramatically different. Like all of a sudden you have all this car data, like your charging speed, or, you know, how much power you're putting out when you're accelerating, or, you know, there's no E-shift here like in the Ioniq 5N. There's no, you know, battery temps. We don't have any of that. So looks better, but I think it needs more info, or at least it needs a couple more pages you could scroll through. Love the improved ride. I'll definitely take a little more quiet. Part of that could be, you know, brand new tires basically. But But yeah, the suspension definitely feels better. I think the gear selector, I have no problem with them moving it. I think it frees up a little more space down here, makes this kind of the center console area more usable. But I wouldn't upgrade for that, for example. Some of the cost cutting stuff, like the rear power liftgate, there's no little light on the power button. There's no like metal plaque for the Mustang logo down here. There's no presenter on the front doors to pop them open for you. You have to pull the handle. The rear doors still have it. None of those things bother me too much. I do think, you know, if you're gonna do these sport pedals, the sport appearance package with the metal pedals, then they should have updated the little plaque there, and at least made that metal so it kind of is more cohesive. But, you know, none of those things I don't think are that big of a deal. Yeah, and it's nice they've got the charging speed at least somewhere in the car. I think what I don't like, or what it's like not really worth upgrading for, the front trunk's definitely a downgrade. You know, if you love your front trunk, use it all the time. You know, you put like, you know, dirty, muddy camping stuff in there or something, I think you're going to be bummed about the new one. There isn't room like there is in the old one. I think for most day-to-day use, road tripping, that space is worth the trade-off to switch to the heat pump. So I probably would still go to the heat pump, but it is something you'll have to consider if that front trunk is a big deal to you. You know, maybe you look for a 24 Mach-E or older. Also, the updated Bluecruise, I think is good, but I'm not sure how much of that will come back to, you know, the older models. One of the videos I was watching on MachE Vlog, they did an interview with one of the Ford folks, and they were saying that they weren't totally sure what stuff will go back to the older models because there has been some hardware updates under the skin here on the 25. So we'll have to see how that plays out. You know, the center screen and all the software here is identical as far as I can tell, other than like the charging speed and no YouTube app for some reason, and the cooled seat options. But there's really nothing there that I think needs to come back. Charging speed maybe. And then the driver display screen, it feels like the newer models should be able to run this version. It doesn't seem like it's that much more graphic intensive. So it feels like a lot of these updates could come back, but maybe not. So am I going to upgrade to the 25? Probably not. I just think there's not enough differences to justify the price gap between my car and this one. You know, EVs have depreciated a lot, not just a Mach-E thing, just EVs in general. So, you know, to go from my car to this car, I'm guessing it's probably about 15 grand. And that just doesn't seem worth it to me for, you know, basically faster charging, heat pump, cooled seats, a little bit better Bluecruise that I may or may not get. I have less front trunk space. There's some of the little cost-cutting things that, you know, I kind of like on mine. Not a deal breaker, but it's like I'm kind of giving up a few little things like the front trunk and, you know, just some of the appearance, the presenter and stuff. So, yeah, I just don't think 15 grand is worth it for these. If it was like 5 grand, then maybe. You know, probably of that whole list, I think the wintertime heat pump would be really nice. But I don't typically road trip in the winter, so maybe that's not that big of a deal. And the faster charging would be really nice, but just going to the extended range pack on any model, or at least going to an LFP model, 23 or 24, you know, that's going to have faster charging than what mine does. So I think if I do upgrade, I'll probably look for, you know, probably a used 24 maybe. Because I'll get most of these updates. I won't get the heat pump, but otherwise I'm getting most of the things. Now the software, I think that's kind of the big wild card. We don't know how much will come back to the older models. All right, so big thanks again to Kendall Ford for letting me check out the 2025 Mach-E. Come talk to Caden, he's your guy. And if you want to buy a new Mach-E, used Mach-E, or a different Ford vehicle, come here to Kendall Ford of Meridian. All right, well, I think that about does it for this video. I had a lot of fun driving the new Mach-E. You know, I drive my 22 every day, so it's fun to look at all the little differences on the 25 here. So hopefully this video helped. If you have more questions or there's something I missed, definitely let us know in the comments below. So thanks again, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye.